Hey there. So today I'm going to show you how you can build this rating component from Frontend Mentor. This is a really great platform, by the way. So yeah, it's a newbie challenge. So if you're getting started with React, this is actually a really nice project that you can work with because there's a lot of stuff that you can learn from. But of course, you can build this in vanilla JavaScript. But today we're going to do that using React with JavaScript. All right, so what you want to do, just make sure to download your assets here. I've already done that, so I'm not going to do that. So make sure you're logged in and then you can download the assets because there are certain things that we're going to need from them. For instance, the design. So you're going to see like these screenshots. Because I didn't download the Figma file, I figured we can just work with these states. All right, so the first thing I want to do is to look at this style guide. This is the first thing that we want to work with. First of all, there are colors that are in here, but before I talk about that, maybe we can start with the font. Okay, so they are using a specific font from Google that's specific. So we're just gonna follow that link, or maybe I can just, let's see. All right, that's gonna open here. Okay, perfect. We're gonna get font here and click on import because that's what I'm doing. We're going to import that and we're going to come back. So all the CSS that I'll be using in here, we're going to place it in here, the global CSS. By the way, I'm going to be using also maybe Tailwind CSS, but it's still fine if I use pure CSS. Yeah, I haven't actually decided whether I'm using Tailwind or not, but yeah. But either way, I figured if you're watching this, you're probably getting started with React. So if you haven't learned Tailwind CSS, that's not an issue. I will be showing you how you can do that even in pure CSS. Okay, so let's set the colors because I want to make them reusable. So I'm not going to be looking for them every time. So we're going to set this root in here. I'm just going to paste them and okay, let's, nope, divide here so I can see. Okay, yeah, this is going to be my primary color. So I'm going to delete that and just call it primary color. By the way, we're just creating variables and you're going to see how we can use them. I'm going to remove this. And then we also have white. I mean, white is white, right? White, and then we have this gray 500, gray 900, gray 950. Fine, I'll use the same names that they did there. So I'm just gonna place my cursor here. Hopefully it works. Okay. That would be gray. Yep, and oops. All right, delete that one. Yeah, so now we have our colors here. Okay, perfect. The next thing that we're going to need is maybe some resets. For example, selecting all the elements, the before, the after, and we're just going to set box sizing for the box to remove any spaces. And then I'm going to set font family here to whatever that we selected, which is Overpass here from Google. So the font family will be right here. Oops, I should have just, okay, great. Let's see if we also need anything else from here. I mean, if we're gonna need maybe something else, I'll see later on. Okay, now let's try and break down the layout before we can talk about the logic. Okay, so this is one thing I like to do and just figure out things immediately. So you're gonna see that we have this card that we have right here. And I'm also noticing in this model, where's that? Okay, yeah. So this is the welcome. Oh, that's actually the dialogue. And then we also have the default. I should have placed like this. Okay. So we have the default here, but you can see that this is the same card, right? Forget about the things that the content inside. Let's just focus on this. So I already see that this is just one card that's here, right? And then we also have the same type of card here. So we can just create one card and then we change the content inside here. Yeah. And then on to the logic itself. As you can see, you're able to select only one, of course, the rating out of 5. I think one thing I'm going to do here is actually a bit different. I want to be able, if I select, let's say I select 3 here, I also want to select these ones, like to just highlight them that they're already selected, right? I mean, it's like when you use websites and you're trying to give a rating, you know, you can, if you just click 3, then there's 1, 2, they're also already selected. So yeah. So this is the orange one is just a hover state, but then the selected ones, I wish it was actually opposite, but yeah, we're gonna implement it like the way it is. All right, so now that the colors, they're all set, we're gonna be rendering everything inside the app.jsx. This is the entry point, so here. Okay. And the other thing that we need to do is to install Tailwind CSS. So that's what I'm going to do here. But if you don't know how to use Tailwind CSS, that's still fine because I'm going to be showing you even in pure CSS. So don't worry about this part. Okay, this just helps me to write the code faster, I think. Yeah, because I hate the idea of thinking class names. All right, so okay, so now Tailwind CSS is set up. Perfect. So let me just test to see if that's working at all. Yep. All right, perfect. All right, now let's see what we have here. Okay, I just have this card. Since that is exactly what I set up right here, all right? And I just give this with full. So let's set the minimum height. Because this is going to be the container that has everything. So I'm gonna say DVH, which just means the viewport height, basically the device viewport height. As you can see, this is how you would write it in CSS. So you have the name, maybe you're calling this container or main, and then you select here, minimum height, 100, device viewport height. That's the same as viewport height, right? But I like to use the device viewport height. Perfect, and we're gonna set that to flex. Yeah, items center, justify content center, right? So that we can center everything. So you're gonna see that, where is that card? Okay, it's too small, that's why you can't, but yeah, now it's here at the center. Let's just give it, for example, let's give it a minimum height of, let's say 20, oh boy, right? So you can see it clearly, and I'm gonna just give it a border. I just wanna make sure that we have it where we need it to be, and I'm gonna just give it maybe like a padding of 6, right? Okay, perfect. So you can now see that we now have a card that is centered here. We've just centered our div right here in the center. Okay, perfect. Now, the next step that we need to do is to start thinking about how many components we're going to have. So we know for a fact we're going to have, so we have this card, right? And then we also have this card here, but it has different content inside, right? So we're going to call this one the rating component, right? So let's go into the folder inside the source, and we're going to create a folder called components. And in here, we're going to have the rating component, or rating card if you want. I don't know. This is JSX. All right, let's just close this. So if you click RAFC here, it's gonna give you this shortcut. And so this is the card, right? That's going to have all these things. So what we could do here is, let's see. Okay. All right, let's prioritize so that it's very clear. I'm going to change the background color. I hate working with this white here. So let's go back in here and just give this a background color of, so you can see how we can use the variables here. What is that? I think that's gray, 950. Oops. Yeah, perfect. All right. So for now, let's add the content inside. All right. So we have this star here, then we have this title, and then we have the paragraph, and then we have the list of our buttons here. Okay, perfect. So what we could do is we could have a header. This is not really necessary, to be honest. So we have the star in the title. Yeah. Well, that one is just for decoration purposes, so maybe not really the best. At the end, that would be an image here. And then we have the H1, and then we have a paragraph. And lastly, these buttons, I'm going to make them a list. All right, so let's look inside our assets. I downloaded this one. So we need that's the icon star, right? So let's import star from assets, images. Oh, come on, icon star.svg. Yes. All right, so let's put that here. So stop. All right. So we have the image here, and what does the title say? How did we do? Yeah, okay. See if I can copy this anyways. Yeah. So this one is how did we do? And then this. Okay, we'll get back to this one. So now sometimes, because I don't know the size for sure, so I can, if you're using a MacBook, you can actually do this. It tries to measure. So this is about 412 pixels. 400 and yeah, somewhere there. So just say 415. I'm not really caring about pixel perfection per se. So maximum width. Let's see, XL. Oh, that's even big. Small. Oops. Fine. 415 pixels. Or we can use RAMs, but I was hoping Tailwind would give me a class on that. In RAMs, this would be what, divided by 16. That's about 30 RAMs. Okay, width full. Yeah, probably don't need to flex it. All right. But it needs a background color now, so we're gonna give it. I'm not sure. Is that gray 900? Let's hope so. And oh, this is like the background color, right? If you're using pure CSS, and this is the same as maximum width. As you can see, maximum width 30 RAMs for 480. Oh no, that's a lot. Maybe 25. I'm not sure. Or 28. Yeah. Okay, this really doesn't matter. All right, but we're gonna go with that. And class text. I don't know if we are given inside the style guide. Paragraph only 15, so this one we're not given, so I'm just gonna guess here. And text, I'm just gonna say base, which is like 16 pixels really. All right, so let's render here. So we're gonna remove that one that we had done and put the rating card right here. Okay, now the card is rendered. Okay, perfect. If you also still want to check, maybe the paddings. All right, that's about 32. And the top, also about 32. So I'm going to give it 32 when it comes to the paddings here for all the four sides. So 32 is about what? 8? Yeah. All right. And this one is actually a circle about 48. But on mobile, it's definitely going to be smaller than that, or not? Yeah, 39, 40. Fine. So I'm going to give this one class background. This is using the darkest one, I guess. Oops. Gray 950. And width is starting at 40. That would be what? 12? No. 10. Yeah. Height also 10. Rounded, which is border radius, is going to be full, or you can say 50% if you're using pure CSS, like border radius. Let's see how that looks. But then, you know what I'm thinking? I'm gonna put this inside a span. Yeah, that's a really bad idea. I don't know what I was thinking. So we need to set this on inside something. I would have put it inside maybe like a figure, but this is only for decorative purposes, so it really doesn't serve any accessibility purposes. So that class name now here, we're going to put it here, but then you're going to see that we have a problem. Really, how come I can't see it, the background? That's weird. Unless this is 900. Ah. I mean, my card is 900, so this has to be 950. Unless there was a color mismatch, because really I can't see it and I don't know why. Really? Wait, am I doing something wrong here? I could be. Yeah, I'm definitely doing something wrong. And I don't know where. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's try and give it a flex item center, justify center, because that's the problem I know. But then the width is 40, the height is 40. Aha, now it's here. Okay, fine. So what we need to do is to set the right background color, which is 950. Kind of looks a bit too dark. Oh, I guess the screenshots are not perfect really, because I'm already seeing differences here. But let's just follow that. Okay, so this is a bit small because that's how it's going to look on mobile. So I'm going to set, this is one part where I love the Tailwind CSS here. I'm going to start from small screens and above. There's like tablet somewhere there. Yeah, 640, that's fine. I'm going to increase the size to 12. Yeah, which is 48. So now it gets bigger. Perfect. So our card has a border radius. So this rounded is probably like large, maybe 8 pixels. Yeah, that's a bit small. So maybe XL. Yeah, that looks fine. You can increase if you want. So this is like 12 pixels. So you can put it like to 15, which is 2XL, I guess, 16. Almost similar. Yeah, I guess so. Okay, perfect. And then for the text, it's all white, but this one is a bit gray. So I'm guessing that's for the paragraphs. Yeah, so I'm going to set paragraphs here so that we know we're done with it. Color is going to be gray 500, I think. Yeah, And then the titles, which is H1, H2. I don't know if you're going to have an H3, but probably not. We're going to give them a color of white. And let's also set the font weight here to 700, I think. That's what they did in the style guide here. Yeah, 700 and 400. So this is going to have font weight of 400, but normally it's 300 for it to really look nice. But let's see. Yeah, I guess so. Perfect. Now we need to space these things. The spacing, if you want, you can just guess, to be honest. But if you're that obsessed with perfection, no, it's not going to look the same way. So this is about 18. And then you have this one about 24. All right. So margin top 4. Nope. Maybe let's just say 5, which is like 20 pixels. And this one, which is going to be our container, is going to have 5 again. All right. So now we are almost close to the logic, right? Right, this part. Now, there are multiple ways to handle this. I'm going to make these buttons, okay, because I need them to be clickable. Yeah. So one way of doing this, which I definitely don't like, is doing this. And then you have a button, and you're going to say one here, and then you're going to create another one, and another one, and like you're going to duplicate them, like, like 5 of them. Sure, you could do this, but that becomes painful, right? It basically defeats the whole purpose of having React in the first place. So let's create a data, right? Which we're going to, I'm just going to call it data, really. Nothing fancy. And we're going to have our numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And here, instead of creating one by one, we're going to map, right? We're going to use map to render. So we're just going to call this item. And we're going to return instead of, yeah, because I like to, you're going to see why I used this curly braces and use return, because sometimes I like to create classes right here. I mean, variables, which I can then use inside. Okay, so in here, we're going to have a button of type button, right? So whenever you map a list, you need to make sure you have a key, a unique key. And for our case here, these numbers are all unique. They're not the same. So we're going to use item. And here, this is what we're going to show the user. Item. All right. So before I do any styling, let's just see how that looks. Yep. So we have our numbers here, and these are actually buttons, right? Okay, perfect. Now we could put flags so that everything is in a row, right? And the way I see it here, these are spaced evenly. So what we could do is to give this a width. So here I could say width full, right? So that it takes the full width. And then now I could say justify between. Yeah, so the numbers are now spaced out evenly. And maybe to give them a gap, although it's really not necessary. Yeah, so now let's style the buttons. We're not going to style the list here, but each button. So each button is going to have a height, which I'm not sure yet, but I'm just going to guess 10, although it's likely going to be smaller than that. And it's rounded as full. It has a background color. That has to be the dark color, which is 950. Yeah, and we're gonna give it flex items center. Now I'm just repeating this code. Justify center, like we've written this somewhere. So we could actually have a class code, maybe something center items, right? So that we can just reuse it. So here, center content. I don't know. So you can write like display flex justify content center item. Oh God, align items center. Yeah, so in here. So instead, we could just then remove all of this and use that class the same for this one. Right. And we are still good, right? Nothing has changed. Okay, what is the color for these buttons? What are they using? Yeah, the same color as the paragraphs. So we can give it text. That's gray 500. Right, gray 500. Is that right? Yes. That kind of looks really dark, but that's fine. Okay. Later on, we are going to extract the logic when we start building the model right here. Because you're going to see that some of the classes that we've already applied to our rating component, they're the same, like the radius, maybe the paddings. So we don't want to repeat that. We want to reuse that. So, but for now, let's now try and focus on the logic part, okay? All right, so now that the logic is in place, now that the layout is in place, so what we can do is to now start to think about how we are going to start selecting items here. We need to make these buttons clickable, okay? So simple as that. Let's just do the very, very first thing that you do. So let's create a handler here that just say handle button click. Okay, this is right. And all it's going to do is for now is to use console log, all right? Button clicked. Button clicked. Okay, so here we can append or attach, sorry, and on click equals handle button click, right? So let's test to see that that's actually working. That when we click, we should be able to see something. Yep, button clicked, button clicked, button clicked, right? You can see that it's increasing here. I hope you can't see. Oh. All right, but still, that's not good enough because we don't know which button has been clicked, right? Okay, so maybe we can solve that by, we know that every time we are passing this item, what is this item? This item is basically the number, right? That's the number. So we could change that if that's confusing that I have item, but basically the item is this number that is in here, the individual number that we have here, right? So what if we could pass that to this listener here, to the handler, okay? So, but we can't just do like this. This is wrong. We need to do it inside a callback function, right? And then we can now pass the ID because we don't want it. If you don't do it inside a callback function, it means your function is going to be invoked immediately, which is incorrect. But you want after there's been a click to the button, then this code gets executed, right? So here, let's console log so that this can accept a number. So, all right, I'm gonna call it ID. All right, or maybe item as it is. Seriously, I'm really bad with naming stuff. So now you have item, but feel free to name it whatever feels natural to you, but I couldn't use number because it's reserved. So we're gonna use item. So button clicked. So here we're gonna see which button has been clicked, right? So let's clear that. And button clicked 1, button clicked 2, 5, 4, 3, right? Perfect. Now we know the buttons that has been clicked, right? Perfect. So what we would now want to do is to highlight the button that's been clicked. So this is where we now start to think about the state, right? We need to know, we know that this is the button that has been clicked, but we need to save it somewhere so that we can show it to the user interface. Okay, like this is the button that actually has been clicked. This is what the user has selected, right? So we're gonna need a state, right? So we're gonna have this state code, maybe rating. set rating, right? And we're going to use state here. By default, it's nothing right in here. Now, so instead of console logging, what we're going to do is here, we're just going to set rating to whatever the button has been clicked. This is, remember, this is a number. Of course, you can't see this in JavaScript, but normally if we're using like TypeScript, then we'd set this as the number. But of course, you can't do this. This is in JavaScript, right? So this is the rating. We're now setting the rating to this number that we receive here is item. Remember, this is just a name that I gave item, but it's a number. So remember that. Perfect. Now that we have this number, so how can we show that to the interface here to show that this is the button that has been clicked? We need to change the color. Remember, we need to change the color of the button that has been clicked to white, the background color to white, and right, and 4. So we could have a variable here. This is why I said I like to use this curly braces and then use the return statement. Make sure if you use this, then you must now select use return. Okay, so constant is selected, right? This is going to be a Boolean value. So we're going to say the item, the current one, matches rating, right? Basically, we are saying this number, the current number that's being looped, because remember, this is an iteration, matches the rating here, the number that we have inside rating. So it's either going to be true or it's going to be false. All right. Now, let's conditionally apply this color here. So instead of just putting the color, we're gonna need to use string literals, like these backticks right here. This allows us now to inject some JavaScript. Okay, so right here, we're gonna say is selected, and we're gonna use a ternary so that if it is selected, we do something. Otherwise, we're going to do something. So if it is selected, we know that we need to set here. If it is selected, we need to set the background color to white. And we also need to change the text because right now the text is this. Wait a minute. How did it? Okay, here, right? So we're going to take this text and also put it inside here. But if it's selected, we need to make the text 900 or 950. Let's see. Yeah, more like 950. All right, so let's save that. I know this part might seem confusing, but we're going to get back. I'm going to try and explain again, right? So you see, when I select, now we know this is the button that's selected. And when I select 3, now you see that. So we now have that, right? So let me try one more time to explain to you what is really happening here. So first, remember, we have this data of array, which is the numbers, right? And these numbers, we iterate them, we loop them using the map function, right? Which is a list that we now have here. And we agreed that we need to know which button has been clicked. This was the first thing that we did. So we console logged here that the button has been clicked is this. And we say we need to save that. So you save the number to this state called rating, right? Now, as we are iterating here, we need to check to see if those numbers match, right? This is why I'm using is selected. This is just a name. It's a constant name. It's a Boolean. It checks to see if this number matches exactly what's in rating, right? It means that's the one that's been clicked, right? And in order to conditionally apply that, we need to use these backticks here, or I believe they're called string literals. Yeah. So this is why I come here and I use a ternary to make sure that it's working. It's selected, then it does this. If it's not, it's just going to show the default values. All right, so here, as you can see, that we are able to just have one selection. But what if I was to select 3, then 1 and 2 also get selected? To me, in terms of user experience, this makes much more sense, right? So that I've selected, this is the rating, not just one number here. But if this is, If this looks okay to you, then you can leave it that way. But I'm going to change, and it's actually very simple. It only means that we need to check that the current number is less than or equal to the rating, right? The number that we click, which is the item, is less than or equal to the rating, right? So here, if I select 3, you see now, then let's just refresh. Now we don't have anything selected. If I select 2, then we have 2. If I select 4, everything gets covered 5. So that means if I now go to 3, it deselects this. Right, now we have like that. All right, so we have 1 selected, 4, 4. So it all depends with you. To me, this makes much sense in terms of UX. So I'm going to leave it that way. Okay, perfect. Now we have done that. So we now need to submit, which is why we have this button here. Okay, which is about 45. I'm going to set that as 46. Let's see on mobile. Yeah, I think it's pretty much going to be the same on mobile. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So let's have this button outside our list, which we're going to call what? Submit. And we're going to give it a class name, height of 12, 11, 44. Yeah, that works for me. It's going to take the full width, and the background color is going to be primary color, right? And the text, what is the text on this side? I think that's the darkest one, so probably gray 950. And font weight is going to be maybe medium. And rounded, I'm going to give that to full, which is the border radius. Rounded is simply border radius if you're writing CSS classes. All right, perfect. Now we just need some space here. We can set it. That's what, about 30 something. So yeah, also 8. Margin top 8. Okay. Wait. That's interesting that the text is already at the center. Because I was actually going to use this class centered content, but somewhere it's already centered. But let's see, just to be sure. Yeah, all right, doesn't matter. So what happens now when we click the submit button? This is where this screen comes in, right? But how do we even handle that we have this show up, and it shows up with the correct number plus the length, right? We don't want to hard code this. All right, so obviously this is a matter of state. So we need a show dialog, because I'm going to treat this as a dialog or a model if you want. Right, so let's create a component again. Code. I'm just going to say dialog. Something dialog, right? And I just do TSX instead of JSX. All right. Okay, so now I am going to create another component called card wrapper, right? Because you see, the thing here is we're going to need this same class here, the exact same classes. So I don't want to repeat them. So what it does, right? Let's add card. This is simply just a wrapper, really. You can create it any way you want. So what is it going to render? It's just going to render children. Wow. React. The hell? Yeah, maybe we don't need to do that. We can just create a simple, yeah. All right, so now that we have in here the rating card, so we're going to need the dialog. So I'm actually going to create a class in here. I want to save myself some time. I want to save some time, so card wrapper. Yeah, basically everything that's in here. Okay, I almost forgot I can paste it there. So maximum width 26 RAM, width 100%, background color gray 900. Padding, it's going to be 32 pixels, which is 2 RAMs, and border radius 1 RAM. Okay, and then we're gonna just copy that. All right, so now we have card wrapper here, and you're gonna see we're gonna also use that as card wrapper in our dialog, and this dialog actually has this decorative whatever image. So let's import that image at the top. We're just gonna call it illustration. So original. All right. I'm not sure what this one is called. Z assets, images, illustration. Thank you. I want to copy the name. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So it's an image. So here we're going to have the illustration image rendered here. All right. And what other things do we have inside here? We have this part and then this part. So I'm going to skip this one. We're going to come back to that. So this is going to be an H2 and a P tag. All right. So this is simply going to be like a span. And then we have the H2 and we have the P tag. The H2 says what? Thank you. Oh God, gotta put this here. It'll be much easier than moving. All right, thank you. And let me just see if I can copy the text. And this says, thank you. All right. Now I already see a bit of an issue here, right? Why? Because this is just the card, but the card we're gonna need to make sure that it takes the full width here and the full height. So instead of doing, okay, so instead of that, I'm gonna have a div. You can use a dialog here, it's actually best. I'm gonna have a div that wraps everything. Right, and this div is gonna have a minimum height of dvh and width full, and it's going to take the center content class, right? We need everything that's in there. Why? Because we need to center everything. And then the most important, it's going to have a fixed position. All right, and the background color of gray 900, right? Because since our card is also, this will be 950. Yeah, because it seems a bit much darker. Yep. Hope I'm right. This one. So this is the screen that we're going to show after our user clicks the submit button. Okay. Let me see if I need anything. Okay, so we say this span, we're going to deal with this one later on because there's data that we need to pass down. So because I'm gonna need to render it in here because my state that I'm using is in here. Unless I had put the state here, then handle all that in there. So let's just have maybe a React fragment simply because we need to wrap. Okay, and then we can now render this one inside here, which is dialog. But of course, we're gonna conditionally render dialog. At the moment, right now, if we go, we're gonna see this. Oops. Wait. What is happening? Oh yeah, this is supposed to be SVG. I just imported without the extension. All right, so yeah, you can see the thank you immediately it's now showing, but of course that's not what we want. We need it to be shown after we've submitted. So we can have a state here, code show dialog. So this would be set show dialog, right? And after we've set a rating, this is, and of course it's going to be a Boolean value, which is false, right? By default, we're not showing it, but we can only show the dialog after we've set a rating. So this is the right place where we would need to update it. Show dialog, it becomes true, right? Or you can toggle the value if you want, but I'm using array. So right now it shouldn't exist. Oh yeah. So we need to conditionally render it, right? So the only time we render it is when we say we need to check show dialog. Okay, this is like a short syntax and do this. What this really means is, do we need to show dialog? Is it true? Then we can do what's on the right, right? This is like a very concise way of writing. It's like a ternary, or if you know how to use a ternary operator, this is almost the same. Show dialog, is it true? Yes, then, or you just show nothing. Is it no? This is like the same thing. Oh yeah, and I actually just made it. Okay, let's go back here. I'm gonna do show dialog end this because it's concise, but we shouldn't be setting in here. This is wrong, sorry, right? We only after we've submitted, right? Because here we're not submitting, here we're just selecting. So this button needs to have a handler, right? This one, the submit button, which is on click. Then we can have our on click, which is submit rating. All right, so let's create it here. Constant submit rating. So only after we've said we want to submit the button, the form per se, our rating, submit our rating, then that's the only time we get to show the dialog now. And another thing we could do is to maybe clear, let's clear the rating, but of course for now, let's just make sure that this is working. All right, so I've selected 3 and then I say submit and then this shows up, right? Good. Okay, that is perfect. That is exactly what we want. All right. Now, once we have this, so let's just style this so that it looks the way we want. Inside the dialog in here, I'm just gonna say card wrapper flags, maybe not flags. I think item center, text center should just align things for me here. Let's see. Yeah, except the image won't. So we could go with flags direction, column, and then we can say item center. But that image needs to get a bit smaller, I think. Either way, we're gonna need the text to be center aligned. Yep, and give some space. Oh, okay. So we need data here, right? So to the span, before we do that, let's just imagine top. I think it's 8. I'm just guessing now here. If you want, you can. If you have the Figma file, you will be having the dimensions here, all right? So what is it that we need? We need two things here. We need to know the number that the user is actually selected, and then we need the length, right? The total length of the rating. Of course, we know it's 5, but maybe if you're using a different system, it would be better to do this dynamically. So we can have that data. We have it, right? The first one here. So rating is clear. This is what the user has rating. And then we can have the total, which is equals to, so we know that our data dot length, yeah, the data dot length here. All right. So we're gonna receive that in here. So you could use props, but we're gonna destructure that, right? Instead of saying props. So here you could come in and say you could come in here and say props dot dot rating. I hope I'm right, because I actually don't use props at all, so I might not really remember. What was that? Total? Nope. I cannot read properties of undefined. Yeah, I'm sorry. I literally forgot. Okay, that's because I am destructuring props, which is wrong. So it should be like this, right? So let's select 3, submit. Yeah, you see 3, 5, which is the total, right? So you can use props, but it's kind of lengthy for me. So I just like to use the right names here. Right? So rating and total. So once we destructure like this, we can get rid of the word props, right? Okay, and now we need to write this the right way. What does it say? Let's use string literals. It says you selected. So this is the first one, you selected. Let's put the number, which is the rating, out of, is it? I think that's what it says, yeah. Out of the total. So now we have you selected 3 out of 5. And it's some sort of appeal. It's like 30 or something. All right, so we can add some classes here. Height, 8. Yeah. Padding on the left and right, maybe 4. Is like 1 rem. And rounded, which is border radius, full background color. That's gonna be, I'm not sure which one is this. Is it the gray 900 or gray 950? Yeah, that'll be, I think gray 900, 950, because the card is using 900. Ooh. I mean, there's no way this would actually, you wouldn't see it. So yeah, it's 900. It's 950. And the color text is the 500. Yeah, and we're gonna need to use the center content class, so that, because you can see right now, like it's way up there, it's not centered, but now, yeah, now it's centered. Perfect. Let's give this text XL, margin top 8. Ooh, it's a bit too much, I think. Maybe 6. Yep. So this is what you have. Now, if you wanted to add something extra, for example, you wanted to close this, I can show you how to do that quickly, but this is not part of the task, but hey, here we go. Let's have a button here that we can use. I'm just going to put in X. I don't know if that really works. And class name, we're going to position this absolutely, because we need it at the top right corner there. So absolute right 0, no, right 8. Top maybe 6 from the top, and we're going to give it a height of 8 or 10, width 10, rounded, full background color, Let's give it that gray 950. And anything else we need? Maybe text. And we also need center content so that it's in the center. Oh yeah, we need to make sure that our, oh no, okay, I put it outside. It should be inside the card, not outside. So it should be here, right here in the model. And we're gonna need to make sure that this is set as relative. Otherwise it wouldn't work. We wouldn't see it. We just go to the body, right? Okay, so it's right here. Isn't there anything with text white in here? Okay, yeah. Yep. Yeah, and I think we could move it up a little bit. So maybe like 4. And this one, maybe 6 to the right. And the image, let's move it down a little bit. So margin top, maybe 3. All right, so, but now, of course, if we click here, nothing is happening. We need to make sure that when we click, it actually closes, right? So in order to do that, it's as simple as setting show dialog to false back to where it was before, right? So instead of passing the state, right, it's not a good idea to do that because it produces bugs. So what you want to do is to pass a handler, right? So because you need a single source of truth. In here, you know, this is where you're managing all your state. So instead, so here, I'm good because we could create another function, another handler here. Let me show you first, right here, code, maybe close rating, and we set it to false, right? Here, close rating, and we can pass it also as props. So we could just say on close, right? On close, we're gonna give it this function called close rating, right? This one, which just set it to false. But you're gonna see that there's a bit of a repetition. There's actually a smarter way to do that. So let's first do this, then we can show the better way. So on click, we're gonna set to on close, right? So when we click this one, then we close that. So, right, it closes. But then we got back. But now, before I address resetting this state here, I'm going to show you first another way. But if I do that, okay, because I was thinking that instead of doing this true or false in here, we could actually just toggle show dialog. So this becomes, if it was false, then it becomes true. If it was true, it becomes false. So submit rating, but that can produce bugs if not handled well. Okay, so on close, I'm gonna say submit rating, but then we would need to change the name of this. Instead of submit rating, we could call it what? Toggle rating. So let me just select wherever I'm using this. Toggle rating. Okay. So let's refresh instead, right? We've selected 3, we've submitted, it's here, and we close. It's working, perfect. Now, when we make this submit here, because see, when we come back, we still see it's selected, it would be much better that it's cleared, right? So we can start fresh. I'm thinking we could set the rating here, and we could set it to nothing, right? Just like it was before. So here, you could start as, or no, if you want. Yeah, usually use no. I hope that works. All right, let's try. 3. So yeah, because the state has already been cleared. So that wouldn't really work. Let me see. So we're probably going to still need 2 different handlers, set rating and Okay, close rating. So toggle rating. So this would be submit. And I need to make sure wherever I was using toggle rating in here on submit, we have submit rating, and here on close, we now have close something, I think, close rating. And this is where we set it back to null when we close, right? Yeah. All right. Yeah. So we have 3 here, and when we close, perfect. So actually, this is how it works. I mean, you can add more things here, like, oh, there's one thing that I didn't do. What is that? The hover state. When we hover on the button, I want to do it here. Is selected. We don't have a hover state when it's a, well, what happens to the selected one? I'm going to only apply that to the ones that are not, which is right here, right? The ones that are not selected are the ones in the other option. So when you hover, it's going to give you primary color, and text is going to be dark when you hover. Then will be white gray, 950. And let's give this cursor to pointer. Yep. So yeah, I can work with this. I don't know if the, okay, this button also, it has a cursor pointer, more like all the buttons really. Yeah, so it's much better that I could just do it here so that I don't keep repeating the same class. Cursor pointer. All right, so now I can just delete this. Yeah, you can add more hover states as you want. So like this one. This one you can also add a hover state, and this one you can also add whatever you like. Yeah, here it's white. Ugh. The submit. Hover BG white. That means hover text is going to change to gray 950. Yep. Yeah, if you want, you can add a transition here. Transition, or maybe 3 milliseconds is in out. So you that have that subtle change, right? See, I added to all the buttons. Yep. All right, basically, this is it. You can make this a bit smaller, I think. Where is it? Yeah, looks that way. I think it's the same thing. All right, that was it. Bit of a long video, but thank you.